progress. We're going to give ourselves a couple minutes here and let the numbers climb, and we'll get going in about a minute. Okay, we're going to get going as things progress. We have all of our external guests confirmed, so we're all good now and ready to kick off. So good morning and good evening to all of you, depending on where you're joining us from around the globe. We very much appreciate your time in learning about RFID and in supporting our transition to this new technology in our stores. My name is Kelly Heshka. I'm from the Apparel Acceleration team, and I'm here with my team, our global sourcing team, our packaging team, and our partners from Auburn University to give you more information around RFID and how we're rolling this into our stores. Sam, if you want to go to the next slide. The agenda is quite targeted today. We're going to do a very quick refresher because I'm sure there's people on the call that have missed the kickoff call. Auburn review of the submissions guide and the playbook. We're going to take a deeper dive, and then we're going to go into next steps, and we're allowing some time for Q&A at the end. We will do our best to answer all of your questions. That being said, if there's anything we cannot answer, we will put it in the parking lot, and we will add it to our FAQ, which is live and ongoing on Retail Link for all of your teams to access. I will say this presentation will also be available to you on Retail Link in both French and English. And it is not a replacement for the playbook. I'm going to underline that now. But it will help your teams just in terms of a short overview and a more pointed information outline. So with that, we're going to get into content around what is RFID and why are we going there. Sam, if you want to go to the next slide, I think that the video will explain RFID a lot better than I can, if you want to roll it.
To take better care of our customers, we are implementing RFID technology. RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification. Using this technology will allow us to improve our on-hand accuracy. To help with this, we will now be using RFID for our Tuesday Deep Out Scan and shelf availability. As many know, taking on-hand changes in apparel can be difficult and time-consuming. This process will consist of an RFID tag applied by suppliers. These tags are identified by an EPC symbol, which is unique to every garment and a reader. They're used to read and count our inventory. The reader or wand will connect to an existing store device. During the old Monday Deep Out Scan, looking for and scanning outs was very labor-intensive and prone to errors. Shown on the left is how Monday's Deep Out Scan used to be done. On the right, you can see by having RFID tags applied to each item, the reader can count them individually without having to touch each item. This solution can count items up to 15 feet from the reader. RFID readers can read through most materials like cardboard, plastic, and even concrete walls. However, it cannot read through metal. It is important that you aim the RFID reader so that the metal shelves are not between the reader and the merchandise being wanded. This system is much faster and more accurate. With RFID, you can successfully have 95% on-hand accuracy or higher on eligible merchandise.
very well to the inventory accuracy piece. Definitely having improved on hands, improved in stock is helpful to all of us, and gives a very, very good customer experience when they find what they're looking for at the shelf. The improved data will help us with markdowns. If we can see the data, we can buy better, flow better. Absolutely will help us to be more right than wrong. It also gives us a visibility to shrink, as it will help us to adjust our on hands weekly in store. It will help with OG enablement. We'll be able to pick from store and ship from store for all items that we own at a size and color level, which affects a lot of our modular items, our key items. And it just gives an overall great customer experience and an associate experience. For those OG pickers, they'll be able to locate the items with speed, and the customer will have what they want in all the channels that they want it. In future state, there's a lot of opportunity around this technology when it comes to supply chain traceability, in-store findability, auto checkout. With all of the enhanced item tracking that it gives us, we can even apply it to things like our sustainability initiatives. Our timeline has not changed since our kickoff debut. We are planning to go into 2 stores in April of 2023. That will be to check the technology to ensure everything is working. The 10-store test will ensure that across a group of stores, everything is connected and doing what it should be before we go into rollout in fall winter of 2023. We can go to the next slide, Sam. We're making a lot of resources available to you, and all of these are on Retail Link right now. We've got the RFID playbook. This is a very key resource, gives you a full outline of what you need to do and how to do it. We've got our packaging guidelines that have all been updated, and Megan, thank you so very much for all the hard work that you and our packaging suppliers have done to get the integrated tags complete. As of last night, all the toolkits were complete, which is a huge undertaking for anybody in the packaging world out there knows. So thank you, Megan. The generic tags are there as well, should you need something in transition for a branded product or whatnot. And carton markings, I wanted to note, have been updated for RFID logos being printed on the case. We have our CA RFID email. So if you have any questions and you're not sure where to go, please reach out to us. We also have the sample submission guide that is on Retail Link that gives you everything you need to do in terms of submitting your RFID tags and inlays for execution validation with Auburn. And of course, we have all of the contacts in the playbook for Auburn University. And Auburn has joined us here today, and they are going to take you through a deeper dive on the playbook and the submissions guide. So all of this is on Retail Link. And if you go to the next slide, this is where you're going to find it. So you're on your main page of Retail Link. You can see docs in the center. Click on docs, go to radio frequency identification tab, and all of the files will be there. So this will include everything that we've covered since the inception of the communication on RFID. Okay. Next slide, Sam. With that, I am going to pass it over to our friends at Auburn University. Justin Sentel, would you be able to introduce yourselves and Auburn and maybe take us through the playbook and submission guide?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. So my name is Justin Patton. I'm the director of the RFID lab here at Auburn University. And joining us also on the call is Dr. Senthil Kumar. Senthil is the brains behind the operation. He's the R&D director, and he helps put all of the technical programs and everything together to make all this run. We've been doing this for about 17 years now. So we've collected a lot of the best practices over time for deploying in retail, and we've hopefully helped put some of those together to make it a little faster and clearer for the onboarding process. Okay, so getting started. Playbook is your guide to RFID implementation. The playbooks have evolved quite a bit over the last, especially 10 years. But at this core, all playbooks, even since the beginning, have said the same basic things. You know, make sure that you identify your folks to get engaged so that you can effectively deploy your program. Make sure you understand at a corporate level what you need to do to put the tags on the things and what folks within your organization need to be involved and engaged with the source tagging process. This is a packaging play, so this is something that you want to make sure that you're working on with the right partners externally as well. So there's two different types of partners that are going to be most important to your RFID program getting started. One is going to be your packaging resource, so who you're buying your actual labels to. And for the most part, this is going to be the external company that you're going to be acquiring most of your RFID solutions from. That packaging resource or the label provider may not be the exact same company that makes the RFID inlays. So it's important to note that the inlay manufacturer, the inlay is the little radio antenna or the radio tag that goes inside your label. That's the inner core or the component piece of it. So you may have a different company from an inlay manufacturer, but your packaging resource or your label provider will be able to acquire those inlays and use them in your tags that goes onto your products. So again, make sure that you have a good, strong handle on who's going to provide your labels. Make sure that they know exactly which inlays that they're being asked to use for your product and packaging type. And make sure that you have alignment internally with your packaging teams and then also with anybody who's going to help with your serialization to make sure that you're going to be providing a good quality RFID tags on your products that are going to be showing up in the stores. Next slide, please. So this slide looks a little bit intimidating, but it's actually a lot simpler than it may appear on first glance. So what you're going to be doing here is figuring out which type of RFID inlays to use on your products. So it looks like a lot, but at its essence is you need to look up your department. So which department is applicable to your SKUs. Look up your subcategory. Some examples we have on here: belts, accessories, socks, apparel, whatever it may be. And then in that third column there, you'll see something that says inlay spec. The inlay spec is just which types of RFID inlays have been pre-qualified to work on your particular product type. And then there's an approved inlay list there. If you go to that approved inlay list and you click on it, it'll be a page with a long list of different types of RFID inlays. There'll be usually 20 or 30 plus on that page. It's designed to give you a lot of different options from many different manufacturers and vendors so that you're not locked into one particular vendor for inlay manufacturer, but it also gives you a broad range of solutions to choose from or your packaging provider to choose from. And all of those are pre-qualified to work so that we know that when they cycle count in the store, those things are all going to scan at an acceptable level for your products. Essentially, you just need to know your product, go click on the link, look at that approved inlay list, or send your packaging provider to that list and make sure that they acquire one of those inlays to put on your products that go in the store. In the old days, back before we had the playbooks, it was much more challenging. I think the request was just to ask the suppliers to go out there and figure out the RFID tagging on their own. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do any testing. A lot of people ask us this: do I need to try different RFID tags? Nope, just pick one of those on that list. The other question that we get asked pretty frequently is, what's the best inlay in any one particular spec page? There is no best or worst. The read performance expectations are extremely high. High 99% plus for data capture rate. So that means that all of these meet those stringent performance requirements equally. So there is no better or worse when it comes to the RFID inlays within your spec page. So there's some other things that you're going to need as well, some guidelines for tag placement. You have to use these inlays in the placement that is approved for that product, and that information will be available for you on the link page. It's based on the GS1 Apparel Placement Guide. This is an industry guide that came out of some big standards years ago, but this comes with actually a nice little image or photo or kind of outline drawing as well of exactly where you should put those tags or labels on that product. So with that, that's pretty straightforward. We get questions in the past also in terms of you don't see a particular inlay on the spec page that you would like to use. Generally, if it's not on there, it's for a reason. It's because that inlay did not meet the minimum quality manufacturing requirements or it does not meet the minimum performance requirements for that product type. There should be a lot of overlap between the different specs if you have different products as well that meet different spec requirement pages. So even if you have multiple different product types that require different specs, you should be able to find some type of RFID inlay that is common to those specs if you want to use the same type across those. So I'm trying to give you as many options as possible. The last thing I'll say about this is these are live links, so new tags and inlays are added as they become available on the market. So anytime we test them, we add more inlays onto that page. So this is a continuously growing list as more and more products become available on the market for tagging. So some common tagging requirements. Some of these things seem pretty common sense, but there are some errors that you can make that are some simple ones. So one RFID tag per product makes sense. You probably don't want to put more than one on there anyway. Sure that there's only one scannable barcode per product, so if there is a barcode associated with the RFID tag as a sticker or something like that as well, only have one barcode on the overall product. And then place the RFID inlay stickers on the packaging only. Please don't place them directly on the product. Again, don't cover up any packaging with the RFID tags or stickers. Don't sew the RFID tags onto the physical item. Now, these last two bullet points are the most common issues that we run into in the stores is puncturing the inlays. So please don't put a swift attach through the inlay. Try to make sure if it's on a pocket flasher or something like that, that you're not poking a hole through the RFID inlay because that will damage the inlay. Just don't put holes in the RFID tags, essentially. Also, if there's a product type that contains metal and things like that, please try to not put them on the bottom. Stay away from underwire on the bra. Stay away from metal foil. You shouldn't have any glass or liquids, I think, that we're worried about here. But main thing is follow that tag placement guideline, and that'll keep you pretty safe when it comes to placement. And then if you have a question on placement, there's a process in the submission when we look at the label placement that we can help validate that for you as well. EPC logo needs to be on all RFID or embedded tags and stickers. This EPC logo right here, EPC stands for Electronic Product Code. This is a notification to the consumer that there is an RFID tag on this product, and it's a very specific notification. It doesn't just say that there's RFID on the product because there's lots and lots of things out there in the world with RFID in it. The EPC actually refers to specifically what data is on that RFID tag as well. So this is very specific, and it's very informative for someone who wants to look this up. It says if there's an RFID tag on this product, what does it mean? What data is in there? It's essentially the exact same information with the UPC with the addition of a serialized ID for that particular product type. The EPC symbol has been in use for 10 plus years now on billions of products around the world, and it works very well for consumer notification. So there's also some carton marking requirements that you'll see in the playbook, and you can look at those for more information, just to let you know, or just to let the DC know that there's an RFID product inside that package. Next slide, please. Okay. So the ALEC process, you'll hear some people talk about the ALEC process. What it is a process for checking to make sure that as a supplier, when you put the RFID tags on the products, that you have placed them correctly and then you've encoded them correctly to make sure that the data on the tag is good. This is designed to be a helpful process. In the past, we have seen in older deployments issues where folks, they think they got it all right, or their packaging provider thinks that they have it all right, and then they'll go out there and tag millions of products and send them out to the stores, and there's an error or a problem. They were either misencoded or placed in a wrong location, and this causes a lot of pain, especially as a supplier, to try to figure out how to get those products back out and retag them properly, especially as there's some type of a delay getting those things through the supply chain. So what this is designed for is to help give everyone a little bit of peace of mind that you have done it or locked it in properly whenever you put those RFID tags on the products, and that you've encoded them properly so that everything's going to work smoothly whenever it hits the store. The submission process for you all, when you submit things on there, this is free to do. What you're going to look for is one example per product category and packaging type. You do not have to submit all your UPCs on there. There's a little bit of trust here that, like, as long as you can do it correctly for one packaging type, and you do it the same way for the rest of them, then you should be in good shape. When you go through the submission process, generally it will ask you for 5 tag samples for one packaging type. Those are production quality tags. Those are ready to go, just like they would stick on your product. So when you make this submission, you're going to put those 5 tag samples in an envelope. They come down here to the lab. You'll do your submission form online to begin with, and that will ask you information about your vendor and what your product is, and it'll ask for some photos of tag location. It'll give you an address to send it all in, put it in a package, mail it down here. We'll take those tags, we'll check them, we'll make sure that they're encoded properly, we'll make sure that they're serialized properly, we'll make sure the location's good. We're going to check it all the way down the line and make sure that everything is ready to rock and roll. And then we'll give you a thumbs up or thumbs down if there's any particular issue, and we're asking to resubmit. This should give you peace of mind that you've got everything locked in and tagged and you've done it right. And then also, if you're using a packaging provider or a label provider, this will give you some peace of mind that your external partner is doing things properly. I know that this can be a lot to learn, so hopefully this will help you know that all the partners you're working with and everything you've done is good to go before you start spending a lot of time and effort tagging all the products that are going out into the stores. If you're going to change any inlay suppliers or changing the inlays, we do ask that you resubmit to make sure that the inlays and things that are being used are proper. And then the vendors, you have to submit your own tags. You can't submit the tag through the packaging supplier. This is for a few different reasons, but this is for your protection. We have seen some instances in the past where packaging suppliers have inadvertently made incorrect submissions, or they have made some errors or something that reflects back on you as a supplier. It is better for you to directly handle those submissions, especially as part of this is doing a check or a validation that your packaging supplier is doing the right thing as well. So that we ask that you all as product manufacturers submit those in directly. If you make any major packaging changes, we also ask to resubmit. The submission process, it's not that hard. It's just a little web form that you go through and sending in the tags. For you all, it's a free to use program, so I recommend that you use it. It's not the first time around maybe a little bit daunting, especially as you try to figure out all the acronyms and everything through. But this is a check tool for you to make sure that everything's ready to rock and roll whenever you send it into the store. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a little bit more about specifically how to do that submission process. Sorry, I'm moving around the page here so I can see this a little better. You're going to go to there's a link on the Retail Link Supplier Academy page. This will take you through there. This link will help you go to the web link where you can do the ALEC submission. That's step 1 over there. Group your products into items by packaging type. The best way to figure this out is to look at that page that we showed you earlier that has the specs on there in the playbook, and just look at your SKUs and figure out which SKUs group into each of those packaging types, and just look at one from each of those different packaging types, one representative SKU from each of those packaging types. Use the item list template on the submission form to enter the product information on all the items into the submission. So that's the item file form that we have on there as well. Follow the RFID inlay guide in the playbook. That comes off the spec page to make sure that you've got the right inlay in there. Follow the tag placement guide. That's to make sure that you're putting the tags in the right location. And part of the submission process is going to ask you for some photos and some short video to make sure that you have done that properly. This is the part on the photos and videos. So we ask that you take 6 high-quality photos and 1 short video and upload it to the guide page. This is not a Hollywood production, so you don't have to be super fancy with it. We just want to make sure that we've covered all the different angles on the product to make sure that you have placed the tag in the correct location on the product. And this is also to make sure that we're not seeing anything bizarre in terms of packaging that we haven't seen before. In that video will just kind of be a quick run around to see how all the different angles and sides of this thing fit back together. Please send 5 RFID tag samples. Please do not send the product or the product packaging to the lab. Some of you are very thorough and like to send like the full products in or the full packaging in with the labels as well. Please don't. The main thing is, if you do, we have to actually go in and remove the RFID tag so that we can do the encoding testing and everything on there. So it may take a little bit longer if you send the product or the full packaging in for the submission process. Just send the 5 label samples. It should be pretty straightforward. And most of your solution provider partners have done this many times before with other suppliers, so they will be able to help you get that package ready together very quickly with your 5 production samples. But make sure that they have the correct EPCs on there, and make sure that they have unique serial numbers so that we can make sure that they're serialized and permalocked when they're going on the product that's going into the store. Use the link in the playbook to assess the submission form, and then when you go to that submission form page, it's just a web entry, so you should be able to go down through there, fill everything in. It'll prompt you for any of this stuff as well if you forget anything on there, to make sure that you are ready to go. And then the validation process usually goes pretty quickly, so as soon as we get the tags and the labels here in the lab, they will validate through pretty fast. It can take up to 2 weeks whenever there's high volumes, especially closer to the deadlines. Usually it's much faster than that. But go ahead and submit whenever you're ready. It's always good to be a little bit early when you do those as well. We talked about this a little bit before the call today as well. During the Christmas holiday, the university closes from December 19th, so just before Christmas, and it reopens on January 2nd, I believe. So the university is closed during that time period. It would be better if you ship things a little bit before, a little bit after that. And I'm working on a solution right now where we can actually receive and stock everything in over the actual holiday days, so that they can get back to it very quickly in between the break, or as soon as we get back from the break as well. So more info on that to come, and we'll send an update as that becomes, if there's a new shipping address or anything associated with that break time.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you taking us through all of that. So in regards to what do you do next? Okay, you've put in your submission, you get your approval from Auburn. Now we have to put the RFID flags on in our system. So for the transition period, this will be an extra step. Once we've done the transition and we have RFID rolling out on everything, this will just be part of your NIC form. So we're working on a form right now where you will be able to take all of your items that go with that particular submission. You'll be able to send the submission and the item form to turn the RFID tag on to the CTA that you're working with, and they'll be able to flip those flags in the system, and everything will be showing in the system that product is RFID tagged. So once you've done that, you're just proceeding to do your bulk production. Many of you are asking, well, what happens with our year-round product or our modular product that's in the store right now that is not RFID tagged? There will come a point in time where we will probably have to do an in-store tag up. For those of you who have service teams that go into our stores, we have asked that your service teams help us in this transition. We're planning, as we're working with all of you, on what your on-hand looks like, which we'll come to next. I do want to point out, though, that we will not be going back and tagging spring and summer seasonal product. This product, by the time we hit our rollout in fall-winter, will be on clearance, and it will be moving out of the store. So we're only focusing on what is go-forward product. If we can go to the next slide, Sam. So next steps. Our timing for RFID tag product has not changed. For the year-round items, modular items, we're asking for May the 1st, arriving in stores. This allows us a few months of transition so that on-hand tagging that I was just referencing is very minimal. We do not want to be doing a bunch of manual labor in stores. And the fall-winter product will be anything that's arriving that falls under fall-winter. Generally speaking, this is July the 1st, arriving in stores. Onward. So as I had mentioned, we are working with many of you already that are part of our pilot, evaluating your DC inventory so that we can ensure that all of the product that you have in country is being RFID tagged and will be flowing into the stores with RFID tags on it. This is really important. We do not want to go in and do tag ups and start our RFID scanning only to have more non-RFID product arriving in stores. That would be counterproductive. We do ask that you work with your merchants on this so that they understand what your inventory position is on those products. And on your key SKUs in transition, just be sure that you have a little bit of extra on hand, just anticipating any system changes that happen with on hands. And that's key SKUs only. This is not a blanket statement of everything that you own in your portfolio. And I would ask that you communicate. So many of you are so engaged in this already. We have had a lot of emails, a lot of questions come in from all of you, and we really appreciate that. The more that you communicate, the more that you ask for clarification, the less mistakes are going to happen. And that's what all of this is about, is making everything super easy. So we land in store correct the first time. So with that being said, we're going to roll over to Q&A, and Tracy and Apara are going to help us to get some of these questions out. And Justin Sentel, I may be engaging you for a few of them. And just a reminder that we may have to put something in a parking lot and come back to you, and we will continue to update the FAQ that's on Retail Link so that you have all the answers that you need. Tracy, I think we were going to start with you.
All right. Ready to go. The first question. For branded suppliers, the manual says that we must have GS1 and ARC standards met. Can you please go over these again?
Justin, do you want to take a swing at that?
Sure. So the GS1 standard refers to the EPC standard, and I believe that's included in the playbook. There's a link to that. There's information about it. But essentially, it's asking you to use a serialized G10 rather than a G10. This is a modification or update to your UPC code, and that information is directly available in there. In terms of the ARC, that's what we just discussed, like for the Auburn side. So the slide that we showed that had the performance specs where you choose the inlay, that's the ARC program or the ARC program. So the only thing you really need to know about ARC is what your spec is, and then that's the inlay list on there. If you want more information about what drives the technical requirements of the specs in there, there is more stuff if you want to go on a real deep dive on that, but it's pretty technical. You don't have to know all of it. It's just please use one of those inlays, and then that puts you on from the ARC spec side. So essentially, it's all encapsulated in that document. There's a lot of information if you really want to take a dive on there, but make sure you're using that EPC standard from GS1 and use one of those inlays from that ARC guide, and you should be good to go.
Thanks, Justin.
The next question. Regarding the timeline, I have orders in production for Spring/Summer 23 that is not RFID ready. Should all my Typo 3 items for Spring/Summer 23 be RFID ready?
So spring and summer items are not in scope unless they are year-round modular items. So if these items are going to live in the fall, moving forward, then they need to be RFID tagged. But if it is spring and summer product and will only live for spring and summer, it's not in scope and you don't need to worry about RFID tags on it.
So next question. For Department 23 Canadiana, we have a subcategory with hard and soft home items. What inlay should we pick? These are kind of like souvenir type items.
So in the playbook, any questions that you have in regards to a category, there's links to reach out to Auburn to get specific help on specific items. We know that not everything is going to fall into the categories that we've outlined, and you're going to have some questions along the way. So if those items are very unique, you can reach out to the lab directly, and they can help you with that.
All right. So we are already doing RFID for Walmart US. Will the same apply for Canada as well?
So Walmart US, if you're working with them already and you have approvals from Auburn, we've asked you to please send us your approval for your categories and packaging type. Send it in to the CA_RFID email that we reviewed earlier. Please put in the subject line that it is your Auburn approval and the name of your company. We'll put that into the tracker. We do understand that we are trying to move with pace, and so we're trying to enable this through accepting previous submissions for Walmart US.
Okay, next question. During the last online submission for RFID testing, the web form didn't accept the video, even when it was in the correct MP4 format. Will that affect the result of the testing? We did submit all pictures and all angles.
Justin, do you want to talk to that one?
Hey, this is Senthil. I'll take that one, Kelly. So the file, the MP4 file should be okay now with the current submission form that we have. So if we are resubmitting, it should work. And if we do have any challenges, there is a web form that we have for contacting us, or we also have an email. Please reach out to us and we can help you troubleshoot and fix the problem.
Awesome.
So we have been using RFID tags for over 3 years. Has anything changed?
Well, yes and no. So the good news is it's still the same technology. It still works the same way. The readers, the tags, and everything. Nothing's changed on the communication standard. It's still the same old EPCs and stuff. Tags get better over time. So there are new options that are available on the market. There's new chipsets. There's new inlays. We can squeeze out slightly more performance. Over time, the specs change sometimes too. We want to take advantage of higher performance we're getting out of some of the new stuff. So if you've been using it for a few years now, just check to make sure that your inlays are still on the list. And when you go through the approval process for this, that'll validate that as well. So for the most part, should not be anything that should change any systems or data handling or any type of encoding or serialization or anything like that. The only thing that really changes is the tags and inlays get better, and those should be swappable pretty easily. So somebody can update your inlay pretty quickly and still work with all of your existing setup and printers and things like that.
Next question. Who's creating the EPC code?
You want us to take? So you are. So as a supplier, you're creating the EPC code. So the EPC code is a serialized G10. It's a combination of the UPC and a serial ID. So if you look in the link to that EPC document or the guide, there's different options for how you can create that serial ID on there. And then also your label provider should have some options for you as well. So if you want to really take control, you can generate your own serialization system and maintain that. There's also options for using the print process to generate kind of a random serial number on there. I think the idea is to provide a lot of freedom for you as a supplier on the serialization. We just need to make sure that within the same SKU line, you have to have a unique code on every single RFID tag, because that's kind of the point, is to make sure that we can serialize all these things within the same SKU mix. So that EPC code, the company prefix you'll get from GS1, should already have that. But then the serial part, then you can generate, or your label provider can help you generate that.
Do we need to do separate testing for each private brand we have? For example, let's say we are using Vans for George and AW. Do we still need to do separate testing for them?
So the way that we've set it up for Canada is that we're not going brand specific. Unless you have a tremendous amount of brands and it's very complicated and you need to organize things in a different manner, the way that we're approaching this is if you have a hanging top in George and you have a hanging top in AW, it doesn't matter the brand. The inlays and the tagging position will be the same, and the approval would be the same. So we're eliminating brand as a criteria. Again, unless you need something to organize yourself differently because of the complexity of your portfolio.
All right. I think just a quick reminder on the dates. The question is, RFID is applicable to all products from May 1st, 2023. in-store date onwards?
So not completely accurate. So year-round items, modular items that go into the fall, those ones we are asking for May the 1st tagging arriving in store. And that is to allow us more time to have RFID tags flow into the store prior to our rollout across the chain in the fall of 2023. For fall winter, those items generally start rolling into the store around July the 1st. So all of your fall winter items and moving forward will all be RFID tagged. So if there are items that are spring and summer only, that are seasonal items that will not go into the fall, those do not need to be RFID tagged.
So can we use RFID stickers for a hang tag instead of integrated hang tag?
So I think the playbook outlines what's required. The generic tags that we made available during the transition period are still there to be used should you need a generic tag, because we do not want to have more than one UPC barcode on an item, and you have inventory potentially that you own that may need RFID tags attached to it. So those exist with barcode and without barcode, and they're outlined in the playbook. The embedded integrated tags and stickers are complete. As mentioned at the beginning of the call, Megan and our packaging suppliers have gone to great lengths to have all of that updated in the toolkits, and they're all there for you to use now. So if you need branded tags, yeah, you can secure them through the toolkits.
Okay, here's one. Do RFID tags allow Walmart to track sales regionally, or do they deactivate once the customer leaves the store?
They deactivate once the customer leaves the store. They are only inside the store for our scanning purposes for inventory accuracy.
All right, so from a vendor, so for example, we have 6 different footwear styles, but same layout of hang tags. Do I need to send 6 different hang tags, or can I send one and use for the other 5?
So the way that the submission is set up is you will give one example of one SKU for a category packaging type. So in this particular instance, if all 6 shoes are on hangers, and they're all using the same type of packaging because they're all on hangers, you would submit one SKU, 5 tags for that one example SKU, and that would go with your submission form.
Can I think add to this, and I want to verify this was simple. Like when they do that, Kelly, they submit the other 5 SKUs. It will ask you what those SKUs are that go underneath that submission, right? So in that instance where you have those 6 SKUs in there and you're submitting one sample for all of them, that way you as a supplier know that you've got all of your samples covered. So when you go in that submission process, you're just going to enter all of those SKU IDs as being covered to that sample per what Kelly was saying about one submission per packaging type.
So one is the list of items, but the tags, just to be clear again, the tags are for one item only. 5 examples of that same one item. But the list of SKUs is just a list. It's just a retail link list.
Will the presence of RFIDs on packaging impact the recyclability of the package, especially on small plastic or paper packaging? And is there published research data to validate this?
Justin, I know that Walmart US has been working on some initiatives around recyclability. Currently, the inlay itself is not recyclable, and my understanding is that when it is a sticker applied to a box or paper packaging, it comes off naturally in the way that the paper packaging is processed. But any update on that?
So in terms of recyclability, the RFID inlay in the reclamation process, there's a few different types we're talking about here. For the paper, some of the label providers are moving to a paper substrate to help with that too. The actual inlay itself is aluminum ink, so from a recyclability perspective, it's not an issue. It's typically the substrate material. It's the stuff that the label is made out of that sticks on there. So, for example, when you stick a non-RFID label on a plastic package, they don't like that so much in the reclamation process. The RFID tag follows along those same guidelines, so it doesn't really change or impact anything from a recyclability perspective. If you have any, and I apologize, Kelly, because I'm not 100% certain on this, like if you have any recyclable label notification partner requirements for your packages, then we will follow the exact same guidelines as Walmart US.
Yeah, and so they use the how to recycle, which is what we're using as well, the H2R. Yeah.
You should be okay following the guidelines listed there for label and packaging.
Okay. All right. So do we need to have all information translated to French? Does the description name on the tag need to be both in English and French?
Our language requirements for Canada have not changed. Everything is bilingual, and it's all in your integrated artwork.
You mentioned underwire bras. How will this impact the box bra fixture that has underwire? Boxes are back to back. So this is kind of a metal structure with drawers. So it is open on the top.
So, Justin, in regards to box bras, I know that this is a little bit of a different category. Walmart US does not carry boxed bras. I think this is one that we're going to have the supplier reach out to you and work on specifically to make sure that we've got the right thing going on.
Occasionally, when you look at the spec pages, you'll see, and I actually didn't point this out when we saw the example, some of them will list a spec, and then some of them will say, hey, contact the RFID lab, and it'll have a contact link on there. So I believe that would be one that would fall into that. You would ping us, and then we'll work with you directly to make sure that we got that covered. But in general, because people ask this a lot, like, if outside of the box bras, if you put the RFID tag in the location that is specified in the playbook, you do not have to worry about the readability. So, like, you don't have to worry about, like, anything where it's packaging, what it may be touching, whatever, because we've covered all that on the front end. That's why we spent so much time on the tag guide and the RFID inlay performance. So for most of you, don't worry about it. Just use what God asks you to do, and then you're going to be okay. And then for the specific cases where it asks or calls out to do a direct contact, we'll walk you through that process pretty quickly.
So the next question has a few parts. The first one on the approved inlay list, some CADs are grayed out. Does that mean we cannot use those? Second part of the question, if we have product in multiple departments but receive their orders at different times, can we use one approval for multiple departments? And if we have rollover inventory carry over to next season, do they need to be retagged or will they only go in store next year?
We might want to start with the first two questions. Justin, I believe the first two were more directed at you.
Sure. The first one's really easy. The gray, I'm sorry we didn't notice this as we spent so much time on there. It doesn't mean anything. It's whenever the inlay image is sent in for us to sampling, some inlay manufacturers use a slightly different shade for the image file, but we're actually going through and we're realigning all of those and colorizing them all the exact same. But we spend so much time looking at gray RFID tags. I'm sorry we didn't. It never occurred to us, but like some of them do look a little bit darker shade, lighter shade. That means nothing. That is literally just the color of the item file that the inlay manufacturer gave us whenever we loaded it on the web page. So grayed out or highlighted or bold. It's just all those inlays on that page are equally the same. In terms of if you have a product in multiple departments, receive their orders at different times. Can you
So if you have, I'm going to use the example of a hanging top in ladies, and you have AW and George, you've sent in your submission. That submission is good for everything that you do thereafter. That is in that hanging top category packaging type. So you don't have to resubmit after you have an approval. This will be an ongoing. You only need to resubmit if you decide to change your inlay. And this is just to ensure that whatever new inlay you've chosen to move forward with, you're double checking it before you start tagging millions and millions of items. It's really for your protection. And I believe that there was one more segment after that, Apara, and sorry, I forgot.
It was the last one was, if we have rollover inventory carry over to next season, do they need to be retagged if they will only go in store next year?
I believe that it sounds like you're asking about season codes and year. That does not affect your RFID tagging. There's once they're RFID tagged, there's no additional requirements to go back and retag.
The next one is a question on the timing. Can we get the test results within 7 days after the lab receiving the samples?
We will process them as quickly as we get them. So usually the turn time is pretty fast. It can go up to 14 days depending on when things get super busy, real close to deadlines. We recommend you send them in as quickly as you have them, and usually will fall well within that window unless there's just we're running right up on a deadline. But we will process them as quickly as we get them in order we'll get them in.
So carton marking is just informational to indicate RFID tag product in the box, or does it have a chip/antenna embedded in it?
There is no chip antenna on the carton. It is just to let the stores and the distribution center know that has RFID product inside the case and they need to scan it.
As a DI supplier, we need to do production testing. Just wanted to confirm that we don't need to retest our products just because RFID is added on the packaging, since there's no fundamental change to the product.
The RFID approval process is completely separate to any production approval process. So no, it does not impact what you do in your regular course of production approval. It is completely separate.
If the RFID hang tag item number we submitted for Walmart US is different from the RFID hang tag item number for Walmart Canada, do we have to submit with new item number for Walmart Canada for approval?
So if you're doing RFID product for Walmart US today, you would have an approval from the lab. Please send us your approval. We do have that crossover list and we are checking you off as you send your approval to us. So please send it to the CA_RFID email that we reviewed earlier. Make sure in the subject line you say that it's an Auburn approval and your company name, so we can go in and update our records. It's important that you tell us what category and packaging types are outlined in the file to help us move through that check off quickly.
So we're not clear on what the 10 unique serialized numbers can be found. Who generates the 10 unique numbers?
I think it's a question around the UPC and the number that goes on the back end of it, Justin.
It's a G10 and the serial number that caused the confusion. Just want to take that.
So for 10 unique serial numbers, the only thing it's telling me is where the 10 is coming from. I think
they misheard G10 as 10.
Oh, I'm with you. Sorry. So G10 stands for GTIN, Global Trade Identification Number. That's the same thing as a UPC. Okay. So if you look at the UPC standard that you're using on your products now, and you look at the GS1 standards behind that, it's called a GTIN or a G10. Sorry, I wasn't specific. When we go to RFID, we're using that EPC. We create what's called a serialized G10 or a SGTIN, and that is the EPC data standard. So if you look up the link in the playbook, it'll go into depth on that. But essentially, you're taking your GTIN, your G10, and then you're appending a serial number to the back of it, and that standard will explain how long that serial number needs to be. And again, you can generate that serial number on your own, or your packaging provider can generate that. There are multiple options for where that serial number can come from, but you have freedom to choose.
All right, next question. We have a metal safety pin that adheres the hang tag to the product. Should we modify our packaging in order to accommodate RFIDs?
Justin, anything with metal? Sento?
I think that is an example of an item where, contact us with the picture of the item with the packaging showing us where the safety pin is, and we'll be able to help you guide through the process.
Which RFID format is followed for D25 footwear? This is all in the guide, correct?
It is all outlined in the playbook. And the way that we've organized ourselves in Canada is you can work with your current nominated packaging supplier to secure your RFID tags. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible in the transition. So all of our packaging suppliers have been engaged in this activity.
From the ALEC submission process, on the images we see the RFIDs inside the product. Should we apply it on the outside of the packaging and apply the UPC label on top of it?
Can you read that one more time?
For sure. So from the ALEC submission process, on the images we see the RFID is inside the product. Could we apply it on the outside of the packaging and apply the UPC label on top of it?
I'll take that question. Yes, you can. So you can place the RFID tag and place a UPC sticker on top of it. But the key thing is to make sure that the EPC logo that you're adding is visible. Make sure that the UPC sticker you're adding on top of it doesn't cover the EPC logo. So as long as the EPC logo is visible, either it's part of the external artwork or whether it is part of the UPC sticker itself, you can add the RFID tag beneath or below the UPC sticker.
We have a question about, are we going to share this training PDF later as well?
So this presentation that we've gone through will be on Retail Link in both French and English. We're actually doing the recording as well, so it too will live on Retail Link. And all of the playbooks, the submission guides, the kickoff, and the original letter, everything is on Retail Link if you need to access any of it.
So may I jump to carton markings? Is there artwork available for the required icons and RFID stamp, or do we as suppliers develop that?
Greg, do you want to field that one?
Yeah, we have a packaging toolkit for the markings, and it's very similar to what's happening today, with the exception of where the RFID designation sits on the outside of the carton. So it's found on Retail Link.
And I believe that we have a link to that in our playbook as well, do we not?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's already shared in the same location where all the information is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Another question on the number of tagging. So just for some more clarity, suppose there are 2 colors in a style and have 3 sizes, small, medium, large. Should we need to submit 3 times 2, 6 UPC codes individually? Also, as far as we know, each number of UPCs, do we need to send 5 pieces? Is this correct in my understanding? So this is going back to the one for all.
So no, this is not correct. So if you have a group of items, in this particular case, it comes in 2 colors and 3 sizes each color. You are going to submit 1 group of tags for 1 item number only. There's going to be 5 tags, same item number. There is a list that goes with your submission form of all of the items that you're doing that are connected to that category and packaging type. So let's say it's a hanging top. You got AW, you've got George, you've got 20 SKUs in multiple colors. You only have to submit 5 tags for one item and the list of SKUs that goes with that product category, packaging type.
What is the expectation of tagging for current or in-transit inventory that will be part of regular modular products?
So we want to work with you in the transition period to becoming RFID tagged. We have chosen in Canada to do a phased roll-in opposed to going in and tagging up the entire store. And we've done that for a number of reasons. So hitting the dates that we've requested for your year-round product will help us to reduce the on-hand that's in stores that is not RFID tagged. At some point, we will have to do a tag up on the year-round and modular items that are moving forward into the fall. We're trying to minimize that manual work. So really important that we start getting tagged product into the store pipe as soon as possible. So as we reviewed in terms of the next steps, we're going to want your help in evaluating your on-hand and helping us to get that product into the pipeline RFID tagged for our transition.
Question on the small EPC tags. On the image, we see it on the outside of the packaging. Is this a sticker that will be provided along with the RFID tag, or does it need to be printed on the packaging directly?
Justin Santil?
It's really up to you, Kelly. We've seen people put the EPC on as a sticker, just as a notification for the product. I think it's better if it's integrated or printed on the packaging or printed on the RFID inlay. But I don't know if you're okay with just putting the EPC as a separate sticker as a notification on the product directly as well.
I think the important part is that it has to be evident to the customer. And so on our plastic packaging, I know that Megan had just done some work in regards to a change Walmart US made. So it was in packaged product, packaged underwear, I believe, so that the EPC logo was actually part of the integrated print of the packaging. And this was to help with our sustainability initiatives in terms of the reclamation process. So it can go both ways as long as it's evident to the customer, the EPC logo, to let them know RFID tag product is inside that package.
Can we continue using how to recycle logo on our packaging? As per our communication with H2R, looks like we may not be able to use H2R logo if one uses RFID tags.
They're still using H2R in Walmart US.
Yeah.
Should be no issue, correct?
There hasn't been an issue. If you have an email or some kind of communication from them that looks like there's a problem, then we would ask you to please forward that on so we can figure out specifically what they're referring to. But we've been tagging apparel in the U.S. for a year now at volume and a lot of different product types. It's the same product packaging types as you have here, and they're also using how to recycle. So there's not a current issue there with recycling.
A question here about folded products with the size strip sticker. Can that be embedded with RFID?
So the size strips currently are not embedded with RFID. They require an additional tag. So if your integrated size strip, generally speaking, it would have a barcode and the retail printed on that size strip. You can just use a generic hang tag for the RFID inlay.
All right. So we understood that it's one submission per packaging type. However, when we add new products with the same packaging type, can we send the past approval to add these new SKUs? Is this process to be applied for every future product as well, or just the 2023 launch?
So once you have your approval on that category and packaging type, you will not have to send in anything further for approval unless you change your inlay. So, and again, that is just to protect yourself, to make sure that any inlay change that you make is still working as it should for readability. So once you have that approval, so you've got your hanging top, you've got your packaged underwear, and you've got your folded denim, you've got your approval for all three categories that you produce, you do not have to go back for another approval. In our NIC form moving forward, those you'll be able to indicate that the flag for RFID is to be on for those items. So that will happen as we move forward. Right now we're in a transition, and that is why we're doing these approvals, so that in transition you can be sure that your items are going to arrive in store with readable tags. I hope that's clear.
Question, the generic embedded RFID sticker, it's 54 mm by 35 mm. It's too big for our brands. Can we reduce the size?
There should be many different options in terms of sizing within each of those spec pages. So I know that's one particular inlay model, but each of those specs has dozens of options in there. If you find that all of the options do not fit in your packaging type, I think we hopefully covered all that on the packaging placement guide. But I think that would be a matter of contact us with, especially with some photos or some to that email address on there, just with your particular packaging, so we can try to investigate and see what's going on there.
Does the vendor pay Auburn for this service of testing? We know there is a cost to us for this addition with overseas vendors.
So Walmart is assuming the cost for the Auburn approval process. So there is no additional cost for submitting your approvals.
A question about timing. What's the due date for testing?
Well, that really depends on when you're shipping your product. So we're asking for May the 1st, RFID tagged product arriving in stores. That's for our modular year-round items. And July the 1st for fall winter. So you need to ensure that you're submitting your approvals, allowing for approximately the longest 2-week turnaround, and being sure that you're going to be able to hit your production timelines with that submission turnaround time.
I'll add one thing, Kelly, to what you just said. Yeah, we have the 2-week turnaround time for the submission, but also take into account where if there is an issue with the samples that are submitted, for example, it was not encoded properly, or the wrong inlays were used, we require a resubmission process where a new set of samples have to be shipped, and it has to go through the validation process. So please take that into account as well. So, if you send the samples and if there is an issue with the samples and the validation fails, take into account the process of fixing the issue, getting new samples, shipping those, and taking them to the validation process as well. Just from a planning perspective.
That's a really good point, Senthil. Thank you so much for that. I mean, we all need to be on time for delivery, and the approval process because we do CTL approvals and everything else. So you always want to allow yourself time should there be an error.
Awesome. I know we covered this in the presentation, but we have a few questions on where to find the material. So where in retailing can we find recordings for these training sessions and the playbook?
Sam, do you mind flipping back to, I believe it's somewhere around page 6, if you don't mind, just so that we can show everybody where to look. You're going on Retail Link, and in the center of your screen, there's a doc. There's a little word that says docs. You're going to click on that, and then it's going to bring up a whole bunch of tiles. And you're going to look for radio frequency identification and click on that. Everything that we have covered on RFID is there in French and English. And this presentation will be there as well. Okay, so any other questions out there?
there's some here. I think maybe we should, we're going to go through these and add these to the FAQ. There's a couple repeats here. I'm scanning through. Opara, do you have a new one?
It's just for the current introduction goods that we have already ordered hang tags for, can we order the RFID stickers to put on the existing hang tags we have already received?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, this sounds like spring and summer product. And if it's spring and summer seasonal product, it does not have to be RFID tagged. If it is year-round or modular, there may be a generic RFID tag that is required in transition to getting to your new embedded integrated hang tags or stickers.
Not seeing anything else.
Yeah, rest we can cover in our Q&A, like we answered it FAQ. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kelly, if you want to go for closing.
Close us out. We really appreciate everybody joining us. We know that this is very early in the morning or very late at night. So thank you so much for joining us, for supporting us in this transition. I just want to say thank you to this team for supporting. Tracy, Opara, thank you for fielding the questions. Shaheen helping everybody out there. Sam rolling all the deck. And most of all, Justin Sentil, thank you so much for taking everybody through a deeper dive of the playbook. Really appreciate your help. And with that, we're going to close it out. And I'm not going to make you do a Walmart cheer. So everybody have a great day, have a nice night, and we're here to help you. Make sure that you keep those resources close and do communicate. Thank you so much. Have a great day, great night. Bye now.